and we will get started with this. If you could mute yourselves, that would be great, except for you, Aoife. And that is how you pronounce her name, by the way. If you're looking at it going, how do you pronounce that? That is how you pronounce it. I love these Irish names that look like something completely different than what they phonetically end up sounding like to my American eyes and ears. Anyway, hello, beautiful humans. A big welcome to, I think, 2 new students in here today. So anyway, whether you're fresh out of your practice sessions, graduated already, as a couple of you also have, or you're just joining us for the very, very first time, this is your Business Mastery Series, our free monthly event that's created just for Quantum Journeys Hypnosis folks, students and graduates. And it happens on the 15th of every month, but the time shifts slightly based on the convenience of whoever is guest hosting or who is being spotlit. Spotlit. That sounds weird, spotlit. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. And so each month, what I do is I feature a different graduate, and we just want to find out like how they're doing what they're doing. How are they using QJH in their professional practice? Do they have other modalities that they're using with it? What are their niches? How are they finding clients? How much are they charging? Whatever they can share with us to just sort of help people that are either just getting started, or even if you've been doing it for a while, but you're like, I think I want to change my niche, or I need to look at other things. And honestly, I change my niche probably yearly, maybe more often. And I don't change entirely. I still keep the old ones, but I like have a new focus, a new direction, because I just get bored easily. And also the universe hands me things and I'm like, oh, this is fun. I'm going to do this for a while. So don't be afraid to change your niche, by the way. Anyway, the goal is to give you just real world insight and inspiration for what's possible on your own path. So you can catch all the past Business Mastery Series calls in the Quantum Journeys Hypnosis YouTube channel. I'll pop that into the chat here in just a little bit, so you can just copy and paste it and you'll have that. There's lots of other stuff in there too. And it just gives you like that little boost to your creativity, or maybe practical ideas for how to grow your practice. One more quick bit of housekeeping before we dive into today's spotlight with Aoife. We do still have 6 spots open for the next live Quantum Journeys Hypnosis training. That's August 25th through 29th. If you're already a graduate, there's a discount. If you've already joined us, there's a discount, like for the live training. And if you're not a graduate or not a second time or third time or whatever person, this will be the 4th one that we've run, then you it's $4.99 right now. And that goes up on the 15th of August, because that gives us 10 days, and then it's going to go up to $5.99. So anyway, if you've been thinking about doing that, then just reach out to me directly and I'll get you the link for that. It's 5 days. You end up at the end of 5 days with all of your practice sessions, giving and receiving. So you're going to have a whole lot of self-growth during that time. And you're going to be giving practice sessions, so gain a whole lot of confidence during that time. And you're also going to end up with 2 certifications. One from Quantum Journeys Hypnosis and one from the International Hypnosis Institute. Okay, anyway, moving on. So for our July spotlight, the incredible Ifa Gaffney. I learned so much more about her just by reaching out and asking if she would be interested in doing this month's spotlight, because I admired what she had said on another group about approaching addiction work. And then when I went to her website, I didn't even see that. And so I was like, well, let's pick the things that I found in the website. And I discovered that she's the founder of Prudence Moneypenny Coaching, and that she's the president of the Professional Speaking Association for UK and Ireland. And she didn't even tell me these things. I was like, you're burying the lead. Anyway, Aoife's work is very bold, deeply intuitive, grounded in service work, obviously. And she's going to be sharing how she integrates that into QJH and her coaching and speaking, perhaps. So with that in mind, I would like to dive in and just sort of give Aoife a warm welcome of applause. Yay, we're so glad to have you here. I am going to be the only one applauding. Okay. Nope, there's 2, 3. Yep. Yay, thank you. All right. So Aoife, for those that are meeting you for the very first time, can you give us sort of a quick peek into who you are and what your current practice looks like?
Okay, yeah, so who am I? I'm actually I'm very introvert. So this is fine. Like I'm sitting here and there's nobody around me, which is fantastic. With the irony, even though I am the president of the Professional Speaking Association, I'm actually quite quite introvert. So the reason lots of those things are not on my website are, well, a couple of reasons. One, I don't have the technical bandwidth or capacity to do that. So I just have to go and either figure it out myself or just pay somebody to do that for me. And that's one of those reasons. The other reason is, do you know what? Sometimes I don't really care. I do lots of these things because I want to do them, and they're not necessarily because it's another service that I'm going to sell. And the other reason is I'm, like I said, I'm very introvert and um, all of those kind of list of things. And then sometimes I hear somebody introducing me and I go, that's not me. So who's that amazing person? And they go, oh, that is me. So, those things just they actually make me a little bit uncomfortable. But anyway, so who am I? I am,
I think you're just going to have to get over yourself. You
I
are
know,
the special event that we're all
I
here
know.
for, Aoife.
If
Accept
only I
that.
knew a good coach, if only I knew like a halfway decent
Only you knew. I
hypnotherapist.
know. They're so
If
hard to
only.
find.
They are. I know. Anyway, that's just the whole kind of ridiculousness. So I'm Irish. I live in Ireland currently for now. My background is actually in financial services, and that led me on the path of looking at the whole psychology behind money, the reasons why we do things. So sort of behavioral side of why we do things, why we don't, the reason why we spend. Um, and then that journey then took me on, as most people's journeys, it's never a straight line. You kind of, oh, that's sort of interesting, and that's interesting as well. So looking at money from a more objective perspective, the psychology behind it was really, really interesting as I was able to look at myself and go, aha, that's why I made all those screw ups. And then my path took on a whole sort of different direction. And say sometimes the universe hands you something on a plate and goes, here you go. Um, this is the direction that you need to go in. So I started to look at the space of addiction because money and addiction are often inextricably linked. So this is quite a new service that I've added to the business, which is why you won't see very much about it. So my business is coming in through word of mouth at the moment. So people either you don't have any money because there is an addiction difficulty and there's the shame of that is compounded tenfold. So it could be gambling, it could be anything. Could be gambling, could be a drug, could be an alcohol, could even be smoking. But if it's something a little darker, like a substance that you could be arrested even for the possession of, then people are absolutely not going to put their hand up and say that they are in difficulties. So those are the people that I'm working with at the moment. So the service, it's 100% confidential. Um, but what I can achieve something in maybe 3 to 4 sessions that they could be in rehab for 6 months for. And maybe somebody doesn't have the time. They just, well, if I go to rehab for 6 months, like how do I explain my absence? Even if I'm in for 3 months, how do I explain that? Or if they see a treatment center on my bank statement, because this came up recently, a woman that I was helping with her money side of things, and she said, how do I explain that I have a payment to a treatment center on my bank statement? How do I explain that? And she had so much shame around that. I thought, okay, there's a huge space for me to do something that allows people to get really, really prompt and very fast results as long as they're at threshold. There's no point
There's
in
also a thing in America anyway, just piggybacking on what you just said, in order to get insurance to cover any kind of addiction counseling here in America, you have to have a diagnosis that goes on your medical record forever.
and then it just
A
follows you. So then
diagnosis
you,
of
yeah,
being an
it's just
addict, right? A mental health
ridiculous.
diagnosis that follows
No,
you
no,
forever and
that's just
ever.
ridiculous.
So when people
So
ask
then you
me,
have
like, do
this,
you accept insurance? And I say no, but here's why that's a good thing.
mm, yeah,
It's not a bad thing. It's a very good because you
it's
don't
not a
have
bad
to
thing.
have a mental health diagnosis. You can just work with me one on one directly. We can help you overcome this thing. And the greater world doesn't ever have to know, you know?
Nope,
Not about shame. It's not about hiding it from shame, but
no.
it's like when something's on your record forever, and accessible to, current and future employers and universities and whatever. Like that's not always something people want.
No.
Anyway, so I just wanted to share that. I don't know if it's the same in Ireland though, if you have to have a
It
mental
is,
health diagnosis.
it would be,
Mhm.
sorry, I caught my sleeve in the chair. It would be similar. So no, I don't take insurances either, which I would agree is a good thing. So working with me means you get freedom from, and then that gives you freedom to. And so it's really fast as long as the person is at threshold. It's 100% confidential. It's a safe space, and it'll show up on your bank statement. Actually, I can make it look, I can say whatever it is, that kind of pretty much that you want on your bank statement. So there's nothing following you, which is amazing. But the real key, as everybody knows with hypnosis, is the person has to be at threshold. They absolutely, and in the beginning, I thought, oh God, nobody's going to pay for this. It's just ridiculous. Like who, again, that whole imposter syndrome, like, will you just get flipping good over yourself? Nobody's going to pay this to work with little old me. Goodness sake, what the hell? And all of that narrative. And then somebody said, if they have an addiction difficulty, they are spending because that is the problem. So if you can fix this for them, well, you can't fix it for them, but if you can help them
Help them
achieve the
fix it, right?
freedom, yeah, that the freedom that they want to, and you can do it faster and more economically than something else, then of course they are going to say, well,
Yeah, because
wow,
think of how much money they're spending on the addiction.
yeah.
And depending what the addiction is, you know, it could be thousands a month.
Or it could
So
be yeah, it could be a cross
charging a few
addiction.
$100s. Yeah.
It could, it could be this and this, which, that's a trickier space. Um, but it's
The
particularly
threshold
working
thing,
with,
though, that's really complicated with addicts because always 100% of the time there's going to be a part that doesn't want to quit. That's the nature of addiction, right?
yeah,
So like with other things, when you hear trainers talk about make sure that your clients are at threshold, well, there's some things where it's really obvious, you know, but with addictions, there's going to be a part that wants to quit, obviously, or they wouldn't have scheduled a session, right? But there's also a part that desperately does not because there's an addiction. So, how do you, if you don't mind me, like just, you probably already were going to ask this, but I thought I would just make sure we get it covered.
so it's
Uh-oh.
the phone call is, we all right? The phone call is always the pre-qualifier. So you talk to somebody, you go, okay, well, why would you like to make this change? Ah, well, sure, tis herself, or what do you, well, okay, that person hasn't made the decision. So they have to be staring down the barrel of something. And so, okay, well, if I don't make this change, I am going to lose whatever. Um, I have been told that if I don't make this change, my lifespan is going to be curtailed by this much. Um, I am about to, whatever it is. So they really do sometimes have to have been smacked in the face with something fairly substantial. So it needs to be, and often that's the thing that, okay, it could be a health scare. It could be they face losing their, I don't know, their job or something more substantial. So yes, and there is a part of them that's still hanging on to it because there is a secondary gain because they wouldn't stay in that space if there wasn't something pleasurable at the end of it. So it's listening to how they're talking first, really getting a feel for kind of where they're at, getting them to put some skin in the game as well. So it's really important that I'll have a chat with them on the phone, but they have to put down a deposit there and then.
Yes. Yes.
So yes, would
That's
you
so
like to work with
important.
me? Absolutely. Let me book you in for 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning of Tuesday of next week. So if I know that yes, they're in, then I nail them down that minute.
Right. What do you think about, because we do have some new students in here who might not yet know the importance of them having skin in the game. There's a lot of people who, when they're first starting, they're like, oh, I'm not ready yet. I need to keep doing it for free. But then they're not going to get the results that they're hoping for because the client is not fully committed because they're just they're like a tire kicker, right? They're just like, oh, I'll see if it works. I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, kind of an attitude. So can you talk about that a little? Because we do have some new people. So I just want to make sure
Okay.
that they know like it's so
Yeah.
important to get some kind of a commitment from the client.
It's like anything. You if you go into a restaurant, you don't sort of for ages and then not order anything, and then like the server will go, right, so what would you like? So it's very important that somebody does come to you and they are genuinely saying, if I don't make this change, this whatever, you go, okay, that's wonderful. I am now here to support you. people who work with me experience this lifestyle, transformational experience, and then you close them. And it's not a hard sell because I'm not into hard selling. It's when the person is in that mindset, you need to get them because you're actually helping them. If you let them walk off, then they're going to beat themselves up and go, flip now, of course, I really, and they'll go into that coulda, woulda, shoulda space for ages. So you're actually doing them a disservice. And if you work for free, and lots of people
Good
do, and
point.
it's okay to do that every now and then to go, look, I would need to experiment on this protocol. I would strongly recommend, even if you are experimenting with a new protocol, you could offer it maybe to 2 or 3 people at a discounted price and make it clear, listen, I am experimenting with this, with a new protocol, script, whatever. I am offering this to the first 2, 3, doesn't matter, make it up, people at this price, to just
So they
to allow
still
me to
feel like
explore.
they're getting something special and that it's limited because that will still help to create that sense of commitment in them, right?
And it
Instead of
is a
just like,
sense of
I'll see if it
commitment.
works. It
And
is,
it
yeah.
is
And they
important
need that
because they do need that,
for
and you
for their
are,
own.
it's important even psychologically, get them to sign, put a deposit down, sign something like anything. You go to buy a house, you go to buy a car, you go to buy a pair of trousers. You, there is a transaction. This is an exchange, and people value something when there is an exchange. People don't value free stuff, me included. We just
So
don't. We
true.
don't. It's like it's a free call. Surely just catch the replay. Oh, I've paid for this thing. You miraculously find the time in your diary to go to. You book a ticket to go to the cinema. You go. You should, like, it's on Netflix. You'll watch it whenever, and you'll be scrolling on your
Yeah.
phone
Or
halfway through.
if you have a free gym membership offered to you versus one that you're actually paying a little more than you're comfortable with, which one are you going to use? Right. And this is why, historically speaking, my free events like this don't get as many people. It's just true. But if I charge, $50 to $100, they'll show up or more, but like they'll show up. So, I mean, there's the proof right there. You're absolutely spot on. But it's for their own mental and emotional health. It's not just for our pocketbook. Like if they aren't
It is, yeah.
buying into it,
It's
they're not going to have their skin in the game, as you said.
I have very strong views about kind of manipulative behaviors, and the hard selling, and like, there's nothing wrong with the backroom sales, but I do have a problem with, oh, run to the back of the room and if you don't, you're a loser. I have a huge problem with that. If you've ever been to an event where you're just cranked up to 90 on sugar and caffeine, and you're on a, yay, we've just had somebody else sign up for this 20,000 euro course, yay. That's all wrong, because you people are buying from a place of kind of bonkersness. So that's what I mean about that's really hard selling, which I think is kind of unfair. But if somebody comes to you looking for help and you say, no, or absolutely, I'd be delighted to help you, and here you go, have this, have the shirt off my back, you're not actually not helping them. All you're doing is kind of swapping one problem for another. But if you say, yes, absolutely, I'd be delighted to help you, this is what it will cost you, and this is what you will get in return, then you are doing them a service. And you're doing yourself a service as well, because you're putting a value on your own time.
Absolutely.
You muted there for a second.
Sorry.
So other
I forgot.
questions? I mean, I could talk until the cows come home. Oh, I think they're at the door. I said that to somebody recently. They had no idea what I was talking about, and I was laughing about cows at the door. But see, this is what happens. Jokes are hilarious in my head. Uh, so any questions? Because I could ramble forever about money and addiction and hypno and all these amazing things. And the quantum journeys was quite a different type of hypno training, but really, really, really enjoyed it. So fling your
That's what I
questions at
wanted to
me.
ask you about, because you do have other training prior
Mhm.
to Quantum
I
Journeys
do.
Hypnosis. I would like to know what drew you to Quantum Journeys Hypnosis and how you incorporate that with your other trainings.
Well, I came across the quantum journeys in the Mike Mandel, which is where because where I didn't, that's not where I originally trained. I've been studying hypno for
Was
so long
that
now.
the class that I did?
You
The
did the
the
money table or something. You did a class and
money
then an
table or
intro to
beyond
money
ego
table.
states?
That's what it was. So both the money tables, oh my
Yeah.
God, this is amazing. This is really, really, really fantastic. And then, and that's the thing, like I put skin in the game. So I bought the money table, which I can't remember it was a nominal fee. But I thought, yeah, this is amazing. I think this is fantastic. And I'm willing to part with, I can't remember how much it was, to the point that it's okay, this is really good. And I value the work that you do. And I'm not going to now invest in,
From
um,
you and your background in finance, I am taking that as like a wow, because honestly,
mm,
that whole money table thing was downloaded into me kind of fully formed. I wish I could say I came up with it, but like something beyond me came up with
yeah.
it because
Oh,
I
it's great. Yeah.
stink with money.
It's
I'm good
really,
at
yeah.
making the money now, but I'm not good at holding on to it. So I still haven't figured that part out. So maybe I need your services
I think, yeah, I would be
as much as you
delighted.
benefited from mine, because
I'd
I
be
am still a
delighted.
work in progress when it comes to the money
Um,
part, just making it grow instead of having to just, anyway, but
well, I
but
could
coming
be
from you,
happy
I
to
like
take a
thank you. Thank you,
deposit.
thank
I'll take a deposit now and then I'll book you in at 10 o'clock
you.
on Tuesday
I'll
of
put
next
some
week so we
skin in the
can
game. Yes.
do put some skin in the game and I will absolutely nail you down. So my training has been quite eclectic. I think, when I'm dead, I'll be buried with my Kindle and my books and those things because it's just lifelong learning, which is kind of ironic for somebody who was booted out of school and stank at exams. But anyway, um, so my training, I started like lots of people have kind of a very checkered career, started in the tech industry, that sort of disintegrated. Um, Accidentally actually ended up in the finance sector, was working in that space for ages, realizing that uh, the I was able to offer somebody a solution to their problems, but I was giving them the solution in a box with a bow. So there was no engagement from them. There was no learning. I thought, because then they were coming back with very similar problems. So, okay, they are not involved in this process. They are not understanding how this problem came about in the first place. And then I thought, okay, there's a little bit of, I can bring in some of my, at this stage, I wasn't an accredited hypnotherapist, but I can bring in the principles of NLP and hypno into this. So then that kind of evolved. And then I got interested in hypno, years ago for help me to cope with exam stress. And I couldn't, it was really, really struggling to learn to drive. I just couldn't master driving and breathing at the same time. I could do one or the other. So be halfway down the road, I have to pull in because I was turning blue, take a few breaths. And then, and all 90%, 99% of vehicles in Ireland are manual. So, this whole kind of gear, stick, clutch, accelerator thing is quite complicated. So, the whole hypno thing, and then, you start studying it and then learning it and then become more and more accredited. And as most people who are on this journey, it's learning new modalities is amazing because you can combine all of the techniques and come up with something really unique that's unique to you. So I combine hypno, my studies of psychology and finance and money and all of those other things with so many other things like emotional freedom technique and tapping and silent counseling, which is you can combine all of those and come up with something that only you can provide. And then you can come up with your own signature method of whatever, and you can call it whatever you want because you have created it from all of these
And
different
that
areas.
pretty much gets rid of imposter syndrome because you're not being anybody but your own self. You created this thing, it's
Yeah,
all yours. What's there to feel like an
yeah.
imposter about when it's your bespoke thing, you know? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're sticking to, you have your own kind of code of ethics and you are adhering to, I'm not talking about pulling stuff out of the sky.
Absolutely.
It
Yes.
is important to, and even just to align
And
yourself with the
client
profession.
safety.
But yeah, but align yourself with a professional body. So if you are going to train, train with accredited, certified professional people, yes, you can come up with your own signature method of, but as long as your kind of foundational training has some overarching accreditation and foundation and do align yourself with a professional body and do make sure that your insurance covers whatever it is that you are doing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And, making sure that you have some background in it, not just, I don't know, a $7 5-hour little course that you picked up that now
Yeah.
has spit out some sort of Canva certification for you, you know.
And there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with those because you might say, oh, I think that looks really
I
interesting.
think if you
No, I
have
don't really
something
know.
that's accredited first and then take those, sure. Yeah. But
Or
well,
you
and I
might
think a lot of
say
insurance companies won't cover you if
they
that's all you
won't.
have. If all you have is just like one little flimsy something that you picked up for $7.
It
Not
could
to
be
say there's
something
not
that
good
you're,
information.
you, oh, well, I'm interested in this. You do the $7 thing and you go, actually, that's not what I wanted to do at all. So I'm really glad I didn't invest
Hmm.
enormously
Hmm.
in that. But you could use it like as a taster. And they say, oh, yeah, that
Hmm.
was amazing. Now I think I'll go and do the proper one. Or you could say, well, I did that and it was a big pile of rubbish. Glad I didn't spend vast amounts of money on that. So as long as you treat those really short, unaccredited trainings as tasters and
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
something to stand over, that's okay.
Yep. And even sometimes when you think that you're going to get something that you're really looking for out of it and you spend thousands and thousands of dollars on it, and then later you go, oh, that's not quite what I thought it was. Even that can be
Yeah.
looked at as okay, you know what? Sometimes it's equally as valid and worthy to learn what you don't want to do as it is to
Yep.
learn what you do. Shelly's smiling because she's like, I know the history behind that story. She's known me for a while.
But,
Anyway, that I
you
learned that
know,
the hard way, you know?
who hasn't spent money on something goofy
Yeah.
or on a
And then you're
course
like,
that, well,
oh,
that,
buyer's remorse. Yeah.
yeah,
But
it
I
just
think
has
you can
spent
turn it
huge
around
amounts
and
of
make it a
money.
positive,
Of course you
you
can.
know?
Spend vast amounts of money on academic education, like eye-watering amounts of money on academic education that I don't even use. And you go,
Yeah.
well, that was 2 years of my life we're not going to get back. However, it that was important for me to do that thing because it took me ages to kind of get over myself because I was just so dreadful at school and because I was hoofed out of school and because I had, past tense, huge amounts of guilt for wasting my parents' money on the education
Mm.
that little me, arrogant me, flung out the window, then I just had this kind of thing. Look, I need to do this for
Well, you did it for
myself.
you, and you got
I did it
something
for
out
me.
of it, even if you're not using the degree, right? Because same, you know. And I'll be paying my student loans. I calculated until I'm like in my mid to late 80s if I survive that long.
What?
I mean,
I
was
thought
it
I was
worth
bad.
it?
That's just ridiculous.
Worth it? Yeah, it was because I wasn't getting any child support and I was raising 4 kids while going to university. So I was using student loans to supplement income so that we could
Aha.
survive. So I took out the maximum amounts every time, thinking, oh, I'll probably die before I need to pay it back. Anyway, I was a little morbid.
Mm.
But yeah, so like, but I still got a lot out of it. Even if I don't use the degrees the way that they were intended to be used, I got a lot out of it. And I didn't complete one of the degrees at all. Like I fell short by 6 credits because me and math do not get along. I think I mentioned that earlier with the finances. Anyway, um, I can make the money, but can't seem to keep it around. And I think it's just because I don't know how to do that part, like the budgeting and the saving and the whatever. But I did learn a lot out of it. And I learned more than just what the content of the education was, just like you did. Like you learned how to stick with something, how to go back, how to do it, how to stick with it, to make it your own instead of doing it for your parents. You know, we got things out of it that weren't necessarily about the education, I guess is what I'm saying. So even when we do something that we don't end up using that piece of paper for future stuff, we're still getting stuff. I know we got totally sidetracked, but I think it's important because a lot of people, I have counseled people from another, I guess, training that I did who felt like, buyer's remorse because it was very expensive training. And then they weren't able to make anything out of it. And getting them to sort of reframe that to like, well, now you know the direction that you do want to go in. Like that was a valuable thing, even if it did cost a few $1,000s, right? It's a valuable thing. All right, I'll stop.
Or
Anyway,
sometimes I'd even say to
feedback.
somebody, if they, okay, they did this thing and it with us not what I want to do at all, I go, okay, right. There was something in that marketing material that drew you in. How
Yes,
can you use that, not line by line, but
beautiful.
what was in that what were the messages? What were the subliminal embedded commands in that
Mm-hmm,
that
mm-hmm.
drew you in that you could, that drew you in that you could then use something similar, use that framework to develop something of your own. So
Yes,
that's
that's a
another way of
brilliant
looking
way
at
to
it.
reframe it.
Okay, well, it wasn't a yeah, okay, the course was not what I wanted. Something drew me in. But there was always something in it. And it's
Yeah. So if
those,
you're disappointed in something, there's something under that that's like, well, wait a minute, what did I want it to be? And can I find that or create that?
yep.
Right?
Or
Yeah.
there'll always be something. You will never walk away from something and go, well, that's it. I did not learn one solitary thing. In fact, I think I have fewer brain cells than I had when I went in. So you'll always learn something. So there's always something
Right.
that you can take away. Always.
Yes. So getting back to addictions, do you
Yeah, so
have
fling your questions at
oh,
me.
go ahead.
Fling the questions. What were
Yeah.
you going to ask
Getting
me?
back to do you have a specific sort of method that you use that includes QGH, like package of sessions, and then in session one we will typically do this, and then in session two we will typically do that? Do you have certain modalities that you know that you will always be using? um like how, I guess, how do you approach working with a client with addictions? What's your method?
So the first method is there's a trigger, and this is not, by the way, this is nothing earth-shattering, so I'm not about to reinvent the wheel. We look at the trigger and the response. So it's not about, okay, let's talk about all these rotten things that happened to you, which have caused you to do this thing that is no longer serving you. It's really, really, really simple. We look at what's the trigger, and instead of taking the trigger away, because you might not be able to do that, we look at changing the response. So maybe the trigger is Friday. Oh, yay, it's Friday. And
Mhm.
on Fridays, whatever. Can't make Fridays go away. But we can look at changing the response and kind of neutralizing. So Friday comes around, strangely enough, at the same time each week. So the whole Friday trigger usually starts at about a Tuesday. So you go, it's Tuesday, 3 more days. It's Wednesday, 2 more days. So we look at bringing it back to where that really starts, and then calming the nervous system, removing the just removing the kind of when this, then that. So removing those patterns, that
Mhm.
wiring. And so then everything becomes really, yeah, it's Friday. Very neutral. And especially in addiction, people feel, okay, well, that's it now. I have to stay at home and like white knuckle ride it through the weekend, and it'll all be really
Mhm.
miserable, and I have to take up knitting. So no, that's not the case. Or I can't go and see Bill, Bob, and Fred and Mary anymore. That's not the case. So the way I work is neutralizing those
Mhm.
responses. We kind of just, the trigger is going to be there. Um,
How do
and
you
so
typically
there's
do that? Neutralize the response.
Um,
What's
yeah,
your preferred method? I know there's
just
many.
there's lots and lots of different methods. We do it through, kind of, the swish pattern. So you say, okay, this is,
Mhm.
confusing the brain. So you're moving those pictures in and out. Also, kind of just bring them through the hallway of answers and say, well, what is your higher self really saying to you? And it's not me saying, look, you think this, and I'm going to embed this command in you so that you think that. It's because they want to make this change for themselves, so their higher self knows what to tell them. So it's kind of guiding them and facilitating them to make that change for themselves. I can't beat them over the head. And once you've done that, what happens then is that but I don't smoke. So if somebody offers me a cigarette, I'll just say, well, no thanks, as if it was the stupidest thing in the world. You see,
Mhm.
what the heck, just so that when they're offered the thing that is
Mhm.
causing them difficulties, their response is, no thanks, as if it was the stupidest thing in the world that somebody would even offer it to them. And what happens then kind of organically is you're not saying, well, listen, you can't do that and you can't go there and you can't do this, because then, of course, their childish defiantness will go, well, I'll just show
Mhm.
you and I'll go and do all those things you told me I'm not allowed to do. That organically, they just kind of distance themselves from the places or the people or the triggers. It just kind of falls away. But we also plant those little seeds in their mind using very gentle embedded commands, and just kind of plant those ideas in their head in a very ethical way that, what if we did this, or what would that look like, or just imagine, and using a lot of future pacing. And
So
it's
I
really,
do that too, but I do it with the Cartesian coordinates of change, so that way we address what they're getting out of it, right? And what would happen if they don't stop, and let them really feel the pain of that. Like, what will life be like in 5 years, 10 years? And I don't do pain points except for this one way, because immediately after the pain comes up, we break the state. We break the state so that the neural pathway is ready to be rewired. And I have them go into, now what happens when you do get this up or release this or let this go, and have them go into the future pacing a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, how good it will be without this thing, whatever this thing is. I'm not a fan of doing, the kind of hypnosis where, oh gosh, what is it called? All of a sudden the name is escaping me. Shelley knows what I'm talking about, where you just make a thing really awful, you know,
oh, I know what you mean. I
aversion,
can't remember. Yeah,
aversion.
I
I
can't
couldn't think of
remember
it.
that. Yeah,
Aversion, right? I don't like aversion hypnosis,
no, no,
because
I
it
don't
can
like it at
have
all
so
either.
many little risks beyond that, right? So like if you make somebody, you know, gag at the taste of cigarettes, well then every time they go out into the world and somebody else is smoking, now they're feeling queasy and gagging. Like that's not an acceptable like secondary or side effect from that. But anyway, so yeah, I do the future pacing too, but I do it with the Cartesian coordinates of change because it has that neuroscience thing in it. But I love that you're doing that you're taking them to like, well, what is life going to be like, and giving them an opportunity to sort of practice seeing themselves that way, that
Yeah,
they
so
could do
it
that.
it we don't go back and kind of, we do a little bit of going back and say, well, when you were born, you didn't have this thing. So,
Right.
okay, we'll go back to the point when this started. Okay, so let's now work from there. It's not, let's go back and look at that. We say, okay, you didn't have this, so it
Right.
is
You weren't
possible
born with this
you
addiction.
weren't born with
Right.
it, so you didn't have it. So you
Right.
can not have it. Again, that's terrible grammar, but do you know what I mean?
And
So
depending
it's,
on how many years they've had it, you can also be like, maybe you didn't have it for more time than you have had it. If they're, relatively young, or they haven't been addicted to the thing for more than half their life, you can be like, hey, you have this many years of your life where you didn't have this at all, and you
and
were
it
fine.
is possible, it is possible for you not to have it because you have evidence in your life that you didn't have
Didn't
it.
need it.
Because we're actually
Yeah.
only born with two fears. So babies are born with a fear of loud noises and a fear of falling. Because this is some tilt test you can do with babies where you put them on a table and shake it. Now it's probably a bit more scientific than that, but anyway, it's about how the baby responds. Or you put them on a table and kind of do something really mean, and it's just how they react. I think it's a test of their neuroreceptors
Their
or
motor
something or other,
skills,
whatever.
and right.
Like
Right.
something to do with the kind of a like it's a primal response. Not that I'm suggesting you put babies on tables and shake tables, um, but also it's
Yes.
not just be mean. That would be mean. So we are born with only these two fears, and so all of those other fears have kind of snuck
And we're only
into
born
our
with two
lives.
cravings. Well, three, I guess. We have the need for nurturing, to be held, comforted, love, right? We also need to eat, right? And we need to feel safe and warm. So, which I guess goes with comfort, but it's not like we are born with a need to satisfy a dopamine craving.
Nope,
We're not
no, that's
born
all.
with a need to doom scroll or pop a cigarette in our mouth. We do have an oral thing, but it's not a fixation. It's more because that's the primal need to find the nipple or the bottle if you're bottle fed, and that also falls away at a certain point. It just falls away unless something comes to interrupt it. And that's just something I learned from applied psychology years ago, that
Mm.
you can sometimes have a person who has an oral fixation and then they end up satisfying the oral fixation with something like a cigarette. So even if you take the cigarette away, you're going to have to find some way to help with that oral fixation. But anyway, but yeah, we're not born with any of these. We're not born with negative self-talk. We're not born
Nope.
hating the chubby little rolls on our legs. We're not born with a critical voice. We're not born with craving,
We're
feeling
also the
like our
only
brain is numb.
species, we are the only species that second guess ourselves. So, if there's two gazelles on the Serengeti and they hear a sound, they don't sort of sit around and discuss it and say, was that a lion? I mean, I think it was a tiger. Don't know what you think. What do you think?
You know,
Oh,
it's just the
let's just,
wind. You're
you know,
overreacting.
whatever. Yeah, do that. I think
Just
it
a
was, I
breeze.
just absolutely so, don't be so ridiculous. Like, well, let's just sit around and discuss it. Their responses are very primal. So with hypno, it's just bringing the person back to their higher self knows what's right for them. If you allow, even like with food, if you just allow people to make their own choices with food, the first maybe week or so, they'll eat all the wrong stuff, all the things they're not allowed. And then they're kind of, I feel like a slug. They will start making the right choices when you start listening to yourself and you really tune into what you kind of intuitively need. And so I do a lot of muscle testing as well, so I and show the person how
Mhm.
to muscle test themselves. And I use different techniques like emotional freedom technique and sneak a little bit of havening in there. I'm not an accredited havenist or havener or whatever the term is. Um, and just like lots of other things are kind of snuck in. Sometimes it just depends on which direction the session is going. But the method that I use, it is very future paced, and the focus is kind of specifically on
Mhm.
addiction. So we really, really look at that. And it's because this thing is very prevalent in the person's mind, whatever it is. Some addictions are socially acceptable. It's still an addiction. Like you could be addicted to exercise, and that's socially acceptable, but it could be really causing you massive amounts of difficulty. Um,
There's
I
an eating
am
addiction that I work with called
eating.
orthorexia, which is an obsessive compulsive desire for only the cleanest, purest foods. And
Yes, I
that is,
saw
in
that
fact, an eating
recently. Yeah.
disorder. Yeah. That it takes up just as much of the mental space in the person as anorexia or binge eating, or bulimia. It becomes something that disrupts other aspects of their life. Everything becomes about the food. They can't go anywhere because it doesn't have their specific food. They're losing relationships because this person doesn't eat the way they like. Think hardcore fruitarians. That would be a form of orthorexia, or macrobiotic vegans. They're not actually getting their nutritional needs met. What they're getting met instead is an identity based thing and this addiction. So just
Yeah,
because
it's the
something
desire
is sort of
to,
sanctioned by the society doesn't mean that it's healthy. Even if it on the outside looks healthier than anything, it's still internally and especially mentally not healthy. Yeah.
no, and it's
And it's
those
a
kind
really
of
hard
slightly
one.
obsessive, those
Mhm.
kind of obsessive behaviors. Like I'm a workaholic and I know that. But you know what? I know it and I don't care. So I'm not a threshold. So and I get a buzz out of it. I get a kick out of it. And well, just it's something I like to do. So I choose not to do anything about it. I know it pisses other people off, but I don't care. So
But
I
if
like
it
it
hasn't
just
like destroyed relationships to the point where that's more important than what you get out of
not at
it,
all. No,
then
it
yeah,
just pisses people off. So, so what?
right.
I have a PhD in pissing people. I have a PhD in pissing people off. So Christina, let me, yeah, has a
Hello.
question.
Christine.
Yeah,
Christine, sorry, my
I,
apologies.
that's all right. I answer to most things. Sorry. How would you deal with an addiction where it could, for example, alcohol? It's not that I'm doing it at all. Where the person is so deeply addicted that to actually stop taking alcohol too quickly would be life-threatening.
Okay,
And I
so
don't
yeah, I
actually
know where
work
you're
with
coming from.
How do
alcoholics
you
because of that.
slowly bring them up
Yeah.
without creating that danger to their health and life?
So in those situations that I know there are circumstances where it would be dangerous for the person to stop doing whatever it is that they're doing. So in those situations, I would generally refer them to their kind of health practitioner. And I
Yeah.
say, okay, look, I think especially with alcohol, it's a kind of a funny one. They have to, I don't know why, but yeah, if they do stop, it could be actually more dangerous than
Mm.
not. So they have to taper off, and then I've never come across that, but I am aware of those
Mm.
circumstances where, yeah, they need to be tapered down. I think sometimes in some cases they even need to be put on an alcohol drip, and then that just kind of tapers off.
Or a medically induced coma while
Yeah,
they
where they
are.
can
Right.
just it sort of
So
allows the
my
body.
second husband died from quitting alcohol. That's what killed him. He was
Mm-hmm.
that we weren't married. Well, I guess we were technically married, but we hadn't been living in the same house for 11 years at that point. So we weren't in each other's lives, but that's what
Mm.
killed him. And so I therefore do not work with people who want to quit drinking. Instead, I work with people who want to moderate their drinking. If they happen to quit as a result of moderating their drinking, that's okay, because at that point they're already cutting down, right? But if they are physically dependent based on the questionnaire that I give them, then I will work with their doctor personally, because I do have somebody in my life who that's happened to. And I also have another family member who has been on again, off again, physically dependent on alcohol as well. And it is incredibly scary. So it's a great question, Christine. So
Yeah,
I
it's just that
don't
a friend of
ever
Yeah.
promise to
Mm.
tell, I never promise that, oh yeah, I can make you
Mm.
quit. And I wouldn't do that for heroin or any opiates either, because same thing.
No,
If
because that's
their
the
bodies
same.
are dependent,
Mm.
physically dependent, they will go through withdrawal. They
Yeah.
need medical assistance for
Mm.
that. But I'll help them with the side effects. I'll help them with
Yeah.
moderating. I'll help them with I don't call it neutralizing, I call it depotentiating, but depotentiating the cravings
Mm.
at a neural level. And but QJH does that. We just don't think of
Yeah.
it that way because I think it's also spiritual and woo-woo, but it actually does
Mm.
work with the neural pathways. When we go into the temple of healing and the person is going through their entire body and doing a scan and then coming up with whatever it is that they need in order to address the issue, that's making changes at the neural level as well,
Mm. Yeah.
not just
It's
woo.
just that
Anyway, I don't mean to jump in, but like this is something that's near and
No,
dear
no,
to
it's
my
good
heart.
because it's
And
yeah,
because
no,
it is
everything
important.
helps.
Um,
Yeah.
and you know, this is you like this is why your pre-qualifier, your intake form needs to be quite robust. So with the intake form, I do look for the name of the doctor. You know, are you in good physical health? So in your
Mhm.
intake form, that's important. And then you like to have a chat with them on the phone as well.
Mm.
Um, so you know, it's your the lead up to you can't just go leaping into the session. The lead up to it is very important, and the chat, and
Mm.
you know, are they okay, and even just has are they okay up here as well. So are they generally, if they've reached out for help, they are, and they're kind of at that stage, but you just sometimes just a little bit of poking around as to has something happened recently that has caused them, and then you think, well, let's look at what was that thing.
Mhm.
Was
And
it
also
was
what
it
medications they're on will tell you a lot
Yeah.
too.
so it you know,
If
okay, look, I got hauled over the coals by my boss at work. Okay, you know, that's okay. Or was it, look, this hugely traumatic thing happened, causing me enormous amounts of emotional distress. You go, right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, thank you very much, because it kept cropped up not so long ago. A friend of mine, her son actually died from
Mm.
alcoholic poisoning, and he'd been in out of rehab, etc., quite some time. But she said the worst thing was when he tried to stop drinking altogether,
He got sick.
really, really seriously. And of course,
Yeah.
unfortunately, got to the stage when he realized he was dying. He didn't want to, but it was too late. So I was just thinking, sort of, obviously, to have all this information is so helpful. I mean, obviously, I didn't know what was going on, because at the time, I wouldn't have even attempted to help myself, because I would have been too worried to. But had
Well,
I
you could still
known what was going
help
on,
people with
I could
things
have.
like you could help them with their sense of shame. You could help them
We
with
had no.
self-love. You can help them with self-worth. You can help them with all of the underpinnings that if they had all those in place, they wouldn't have become addicted in the first place. It might not take anything away, but it will give them back what they lost
Yeah,
to
yeah. I
some
was saying
degree,
that, had I
And in the
known.
temple of healing, do some physical healing too. Anyway, go
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
No, but had I known more about the situation, even if I hadn't, I could have recommended somebody to help them. And this is the
Oh, and
sad
I'm
thing.
sorry. I didn't mean to say you, like you could. I was just saying, like, when we are any of
Oh,
us
I
in a
know, I know, I
situation like
didn't,
that, there are.
I
I
didn't,
wasn't meaning like
I
you didn't do enough, Christine. I'm sorry. That is not
no,
at all what I
didn't
meant.
I didn't take
Okay.
it
Okay.
that way.
Good.
It never entered my head to take it that way at all.
Okay. Good. Good.
I was
After
thinking
that, I said
along
it. I was
those
like, oh,
lines.
that's not. Yeah.
No, I was thinking
Yeah.
along those
Good.
lines. And when we were discussing it a few weeks ago, I thought, what a sad situation, because she's amazing, his mum, my friend, and she did everything she possibly could, but obviously didn't have access to a lot of the information and knowledge that we've got. And because it wasn't discussed, I knew nothing about it till after it had happened.
And it
So,
wouldn't have maybe made a difference anyway.
no,
It might not
maybe
have.
there, I mean, that he
Oh,
would have had to have been prepared to accept some
right.
help. So, but
I'm
it
sure
just
that
didn't.
he, being in and out of rehab, he was offered a lot of help. And,
Mhm.
at some point, the disease itself was just stronger, than his desire
But
to quit.
may I just add a little bit to this, because it
Yeah,
just
yeah, of course.
digress a little bit, because we were talking about woo-woo and, of course, the temple of healing and the higher self and connections and all the things we've learnt in QGH. My friend was absolutely convinced that he would try to contact after he'd passed. Anyway, nothing happened and nothing happened. And they found that sort of they were having trouble with electricity, the lights kept going on and off and whatnot. So anyway, she was so desperate to try and they went to a medium, I think, or a clairvoyant, I can't remember which she said, but they didn't give this person any information whatsoever, except whilst they were there, she said, well, I was hoping my son would contact. And she said, this person turned around and said, well, what do you think all the lights are flickering on and off for? So this person had absolutely no idea, because she didn't have that information.
She was that gazelle going, what do you think this is all about?
Yeah, exactly. So,
Instead of
I
just
mean,
accepting it. Yeah.
that's brought sort of
So,
from one extreme, one completely alien question, right, to a completely different result. But I just thought, as we're with quantum journeys
thank
anyway,
you for
it'd be an
sharing.
interesting
Yeah.
thing to intersperse it, the seriousness
Yeah,
with.
definitely. Thank you for sharing that, Christine. That's cute. About
But thank
what
you
do you think the lights were
for the
about?
help on that. Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
So, Aoife, what's
She
one
believes
piece
it
of
was
wisdom?
him.
Oh, sorry.
No, she
I
thought
didn't know you were still going.
no, afterwards, for her it was confirmation that, because there was nothing wrong with the electrics, they had them all checked. It was just
Right.
confirmation that there was
I
an
figured.
attempt to say, I'm all right, we're
Right.
here.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
But
Thank
we
you.
don't know. That was her interpretation.
You can't quantify this stuff. So, Aoife, what's one piece of wisdom or encouragement that you would love to share with other QJHA students and graduates who are figuring out how to shape their path, their professional path? Because you have lots of different realms to work within. So, I would just like to hear, like, what's your bespoke answer?
I think it's, when you truly believe in what you do and your purpose comes from comes from something inside and not from, right, if I do this, this is a really good way to pay off my student loans. But I think when your motivation is pure, when your intention is pure, that really does come across. So whatever niche, you may have multiple niches, that it just kind of comes from a place, and particularly it's better if it comes from a place of personal experience. So, I was a bit kind of snarled up about food for quite a while. Um, and it's like I kind of understand those slightly obsessive behaviors. Maybe not a space that I would choose to work in, but addiction is, for lots of reasons, is a subject kind of close to my heart. So, so that is coming from a place of pure intention, not from a kind of evangelical, I'll go out there and fix everybody because, nobody else is right except me. So, I think, when your intention is pure and your niche comes from preferably a place of personal experience. This was me, this where I was snarled up. and this is what I did, and this is why I kind of choose to do the work that I do, because it was massively in debt as well. That's a whole other story. And nail people down, and that's not hard sell closing them down, just not letting them leave until they've
Yeah,
handed
how
over
do
their
you
life
find clients?
savings.
I know we only have 2 minutes, but like, where do you find your clients?
They
How do you find your
find
clients?
me, they find a lot of it, especially with the addiction stuff, is word of mouth because it's a little bit shameful. So just chatting to somebody today at a thing, and she does silent counseling and a few other bits and pieces, and she said people have come to her. We were just chatting about addiction. Um, she said people have come to her and she doesn't want to work with them because she knows them. And she said, "Oh, I never knew you did addiction studies." I said, "Yeah, well, addiction stuff." And I said, "Oh, yeah." She said,
Oh, so you get referrals. Nice.
yeah, so the new
Nice.
thing, and she said, "That's great. Listen, look, these people, they're not going to look you up online. They're not going to be Googling things because they don't want something in their search history." So, and she said she doesn't want to work with
Right.
them because she knows them, and
She knows
sometimes you
them.
have to have those kind of professional boundaries. And so I find when I just chat with people that they come to it. I think there's a little bit of woo-woo in it as well. It's like it's not to know, build it and they will come. But I think it's kind of when you are
Yeah.
right, this is the space that I want, and this was a direction that was kind of flung at me. Um, there was a reason that this was flung at me because, and I just suddenly found out like I'm tripping over people with addiction difficulties. And when I
Wow.
mention
Yeah.
it from a place of there's no shame, it's just like a thing.
Hmm.
Like table, addiction. No, it's just a thing. Um, you kind of neutralize the any heat or shame around it. That whatever it is that you do, tell people about it and talk about it,
And I
and
think
not
QJH helps a lot with that as
yeah
far as like, because it's not a mental health thing. It's not specifically a psychological approach. We're looking at it from the energetic and the emotional
yeah
standpoint. And so I think people maybe they're able to soften up to it a little bit more like, oh, maybe it's not all my fault and I don't have to blame myself. And maybe there's something that can help me at this other level that's sort of beyond my conscious, reach.
yeah.
So
But
I think it makes it a little
there's
bit
never be any
gentler.
hard selling. So there's lots of jokes about Claire Francis, the first woman who sailed single-handedly around the world. That the reason she did was because she was trying to get away from the Amway salesman, life insurance salesman, pension salesman, and that's why she did it. So it's like, when you kind of find that you're pursuing people down the road, then maybe your approach is wrong. So it's again, it's that energetic, okay, look, this is what I do.
Mhm.
I feel really confident and I'm just going to stand over it. And like I'm going to say it. And if it resonates, and if it doesn't, if it does, well, that's okay.
Yeah.
So probably the biggest thing is somebody comes to you, have that conversation, have a really strong, robust intake form, have a telephone conversation with them, sound them out. Because it's too easy to fill something out on the internet. Nobody knows your dog, so goodness knows what the hell they're putting on those intake forms. But do talk to them, whether it's face to face
Yeah.
or over the phone.
I
And
give
then
up on long intake forms. And they feel
people run
judgy
out of
to
steam.
me.
Yeah, people run out
you
of
know,
steam.
they're
And
like
then
4 pages long. And I'm just like, oh my God, are we not? So I have like, it's just one thing. And you just check some things off and fill it and then bam, that's it. I don't need to know,
no, no, no.
every
And
last little thing that happened in your life.
nail them down. So, okay,
Yeah.
great. Um, this is something you want to do? Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to take a deposit from you now. That secures your spot. Nail them
Hmm.
down. I mean, you can always give it back if they change their minds, which very rarely happens. But it's look,
Right.
they're almost kind of standing there saying, look, just please, please, please take this from me. Um,
Yeah.
and that took me a
Yeah.
while to kind of get over myself about that as well.
Well, and you're not taking it from helping them remove it from themselves,
It's an
but
ex
they don't know
it's
that.
an
They don't know
exchange.
that yet.
It's a
You have to
value
sort of teach them that.
exchange.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times they feel like when people reach out to a hypnotist, it's the last person they reach out to. And there's two things to that. One is because it's effective. So it's going to be the last one they reach out to. But I think the other side is that they assume that the hypnotist is somebody that's just going to like, and it's gone. Boom, boom, it's gone, like this magic trick. And that's not what hypnotherapy is all about. There's a collaboration. And so I spend a good portion of that discovery call talking to them about like, I bring my part, you got to bring your part. This is not like a, you'll forget your middle name and for 5 minutes kind of a thing like you can do with stage hypnosis. Like, oh, now you're going to forget that you ever had this addiction. Like, no, that's not how it works, right? Anyway, do we have any other questions before we wrap things up? I know we're a few minutes already past time. Are there any other questions? Rachel, you had said that was your question. Was that about like where to find the clients or?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of understand, like, like how she marketed herself and stuff like that. Because I know, like, like she did say, addiction's one of those where most people either A, aren't willing to like really search for it and stuff like that, and be like, oh, I want to find a addiction hypnotherapist, kind of
No, my dirty
Right.
little secret is actually I don't market myself. That's my dirty little secret. But there is an Irish chap, and he's the guy I trained with, Cormac Colleran, I think is his last name. He did this. He does a lot of stuff on TikTok. I just find TikTok kind of frightening space. So he does a lot of stuff on TikTok. So he's talking quite openly about cocaine and stuff. And then he does loads of stuff on TikTok, whatever. He was picked up by an Irish newspaper, and he just had people hammering down the door. So kind of how you go about it is really up to you. There's no, if you do this, you will get this result. The idea of doing a live video on TikTok, to be honest, I'd rather clean the neighbor's oven. And marketing, clean the neighbor's dustbin. So I don't. So the way I market, it's not
I
that
love
don't.
TikTok. I got a lot of
No.
clients and students from TikTok.
Sure.
I do.
Sure. It's just too much.
I hate Instagram though.
Oh, me too. Awful.
Can't
So like
stand Instagram.
It's not that I don't market. I'd just rather chat, talk to
Yeah.
people. Just
Some
like
things
being
are a
kind of
little
quite
difficult for
introvert.
word of mouth though, and that would be one of them. So like,
Yeah.
when I help an anorexic, they don't tend to tell other people that I help them with anorexia or bulimia because there's so much shame involved. They don't want people to know that they had that. Whereas with somebody who has binge eating, it's really obvious because they suddenly just, start getting healthier and losing weight and eating normal. And then they'll give word of mouth because there's not that shame attached. But because our society shames people of a certain size, I'm not going to get word of mouth from some, but I will from others. And with addictions, I would imagine it's the same thing. If they overcome their addiction and they get to the point where they have self-love and self-worth again, I think they would probably sing your praises and they would want people to know, oh, this is the thing that really helped me. But if they don't release that sense of shame that they had attached to the addiction, they're probably not going to go and tell people, oh, by the way, I was a raging alcoholic, but this person helped me out, and even if they did and they're talking to other raging alcoholics, chances are the raging alcoholics they're talking to are not going to admit that they're raging alcoholics and that they might need you. So it's a difficult thing because word of mouth is the very best form of marketing there is, but there are certain niches where you can't count on that because of all the societal shame around those issues, So
yeah, so
anyway, it just
like
is what it is.
marketing, you have to flip and market whether you like it or not. It's just like picking the least tortuous method for you, and
Do the thing that works for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and like if it's really torturing you and absolutely sucking the life out and you hate doing it, then don't do it. So like I hate
Yeah,
TikTok, so
I
I
hate
don't
going to
even use
like
it.
Chamber of Commerce business to business networking events. Just ouch.
Yeah, I know.
Ouch.
Yeah, I don't. I will chat to people. I mean, today, it was an event. It was a um for parents, so you could bring your kids. So the place was a bit chaotic, and I just happened to be chatting with this girl. Where else do? And then with kind of with my with your other groups, like it could be the flipping anything group, it could be the left-handed knitting group. You just tell people
Yeah.
what you do and just leave
Yeah.
it there.
Yep, exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much. And if everybody feels like they've got their questions answered, then it's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in. I did put the YouTube channel in the chat. If you have not already liked and subscribed, please do so because I keep forgetting to ask for that part. I see that lots of people watch the videos, but then there's only like a tiny little bit of subscribers. So please like and subscribe. And then this one will be up there by tomorrow. I just have to render it and edit a little bit and then pop it up there. Thank you so much, Aoife. It was wonderful having you share how you do what you do, and you do it so well. So thank
God,
you
what
so
I
much.
do, I'm very good at rambling. Anyway, yeah, so I'm very good at, yeah, I set up Ramblers Anonymous. Right,
Apparently I
I'm
am today too. I'm a little bit less focused than usual today. I think I spent too much time in the sun yesterday. My brain is a little bit baked. Like I think I literally kind of baked it in the sun. I cooked myself
yes, it's
at
been
the
a,
ocean.
yes. We had this strange yellow thing in the sky that is not seen very often in Ireland. So we were all just kind of out celebrating. Right, but now I have to go to bed because it's quite late now for me. So I got
Oh
to go to
yeah,
bed.
it's late. Yes.
It's late,
Despite what
yeah.
it looks
So
like behind you.
I know, I know. It's quite amazing, isn't it? Quite amazing. So righto, it was just so lovely to chat with everybody. And if you do have any questions, you can always just fling them into the Facebook group, and I'll happy to answer your questions or whatever
Perfect.
with
Thank you
more
so much,
structure.
Aoife.
Thank you.
Right,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Thank you
Okay.
then.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye,
Bye.
Christine and Sue and Rachel and
Bye.
Shelley. Aoife, can you? Oh, she already left. All right. Okay. Bye.